high summer here in the Brooks Range in the heart of the Arctic Wildlife Refuge, and the landscape is teeming with life. I'll be rafting down the Congaccut River to the vast and beautiful coastal plain. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on this episode of Travels to the Edge. 500 miles north of Anchorage, the mountains of the Brooks Range stretch west to Canada's Yukon Territory. The North Slope and its rivers drain onto the vast coastal plain and into the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge lies in the northeast corner of this region. Whenever I fly north to the refuge, I make a stop at a remote Gwich'in community on the southern edge of the Brooks Range. In Arctic Village, I had a great chance to talk to Sarah James, a Gwich'in Indian activist, about caribou, wilderness, and the importance of the Arctic plain. How important are the caribou really to the Gwich'in?
Oh, we're caribou peoples. Food are on our table, and it's our tools, it's our clothing, and it's our story, it's our song, it's our dance. Solely depend on caribou and make us who we are. And when that get disturbed, then we lose our way of life.
Why is it so important to keep the coastal plain intact?
Every year for thousands of years, the caribou go to that coastal plain because the food is there and it's a safe place for them. And it's just like a woman, you know, when we have our child, we want it quiet, clean, and private. And that's what it is for the caribou there. And we want to keep it that way. That's our responsibility.
I'm joining river guide Bob Dietrich and naturalist Nicole Whittington Evans on this Arctic journey. We're heading to the North Slope of the Brooks Range to pick up the Congaccut River. From there, we'll float through some of the most remote wilderness in North America. So where are our best chances, do you think, to see the caribou?
Well, they're moving across the coastal plain. A lot of them kind of north of these little mountains here, but a lot of them come right on through this pass, which is sort of a shorter cut.
The richness of this area is incredible.
All right.
All right.
Hey, everybody in.
Whew, that's fun.
Off like a herd of turtles.
This is what I love. When you first get on the river, the beginning of the day, and you just float in every fold, every bend in the river reveals something new. This is exciting. It's a great way of seeing the Arctic because we're so quiet as we float down. Come around a bend, there could be caribou on the bar. 4 Dall sheep up on the ridge ahead, and this is just the beginning. Unlike a lot of what people do in the lower 48, which is get on rivers to for the sport. This is more of a transportation through a wild country.
They're so wide open, so you can see wildlife for long distances. These mugulls nest on these gravel bars, and they probably have chicks out there now, so they get pretty aggressive when you get near the chicks. Like that one gave us a warning shot.
Yeah.
Sometimes they really scream at you and dive bomb you.
Here comes, incoming.
Here he comes. Oh!
There's a lot of fossils, a lot of shells with fossilized shells within the rock along the shore. So this was all at one time an ocean bed, wasn't it?
Yep. You can sort of see all those layers.
It's incredible. I'm just so anxious to see our first caribou.
It's amazing how the large animals can just disappear in this, what seems to be wide open country.
Yeah, with this low valley here and that low valley there, it looks like a natural funnel for migrating caribou.
Wow, look at the striation in the ice and the blue color. It's fantastic.
Right from here, I can see blue, 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 and then the mountains right above, and it makes this ice look like 40 feet tall. So it's just the juxtaposition, which is great. Let's just pull over and get up on top of the ice and kind of scout where we should be going. Just jumped off the raft to explore this off ice, which is one of the really primary elements of the Arctic landscape. It builds up over the winter months as the river freezes, and each subsequent freeze adds another layer until it goes from the bottom all the way to the top. Some of this off ice will be as deep as 12 feet, which is a pretty extraordinary stuff. As I hike along the rivers that flow out of the Brooks Range, I can find a lot of evidence of this ancient seabed. Many, many rocks hold fossils. Chitons and other crustaceans are really obvious in these rocks. And like everything else that I do, I love to photograph various scales, from the grand landscapes to the wildlife that live in the Brooks Range. And now I'm going to concentrate on doing macro shots of just these shells, these fossils locked in the rock. Up in the Arctic, as with every location I'm traveling these days, climate and the warming of the earth is changing in profound ways. And in the time that I've traveled in the Arctic, looking back maybe 25 years, I've seen now entire microclimates of trees sprout and grow. We're looking at balsam poplars growing in ravines that were once barren. Wow, this is a beautiful forest. I would never have predicted this is on the north slope of the Brooks Range.
Yeah, I know of very few pockets like this up here at all.
These flowers, these little white flowers are beautiful. The lupin are very, very pretty.
One of the interesting things about these flowers this far north is that we're not experiencing a lot of bees buzzing around us and pollinating the flowers, and that's because the temperatures are too cold often for bees to actually function. And so the alternative in a climate like this is that mosquitoes pollinate flowers like this.
What I like about being in here is when you're on the Arctic slope, everything's so open and austere and beautiful. But for the mind and the spirit, it's kind of nice to have a change of pace. This is a wonderful place to be right now. There's an Arctic hare that's about 15 or 20 feet away under some dead branches, so it feels secure. The only thing I see moving right now is the whiskers. It's just, and occasionally the ears are moving from the mosquitoes, but otherwise, if it just stays still, you don't see them and they're quite happy. That's nice. My mission always is to show things. I mean, I not only want to get a shot of a lot of caribou and the big megafauna, but it's also the little things.
Great to be back on the river.
Yeah.
We're lucky to be traveling down the Congo Cut because it's actually designated all the way to the ocean as a narrow strip of wilderness out into the coastal plain.
Gonna stop on the far side of that creek. Oh my God. We saw these sheep from the raft, and we've beached the raft and walked a couple hundred yards across the sandbar to get closer. And it's just a really nice view of a couple young males and a couple females and a baby. Very casual, very relaxed. The Dall sheep is the only wild white sheep in the world. They really are uniquely adapted to this vertical landscape, and in fact, it's why they survive, because they are chased by wolves frequently, and so they don't venture too far from these cliffs above the river. Just seen a herd of bull caribou. It's our first herd, and they're standing on some ice down here. Beautiful antlers. If we have the ability to get off this river near the off ice and come up over the edge and get a good shot, we're going to try that. We don't know whether we'll be successful because off ice and the rapids, it's pretty difficult to land a raft. We're going to move. I don't think they've seen us yet. Wow, look at, they're heading towards the river. If we get a crossing, that's going to be fabulous. That would be a great thing to see. This is really nice, isn't it? These are beautiful animals, and look how they spread out so that they all have a good view. They've just turned around, they're running towards us. This is what's so incredible. Look at it, they're literally running at us.
Look how large their antlers are.
And when they stop, they all get the front row seats. That's what's so amazing about these animals. They're so adapted to long distance running. Now look at that. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Ah, it's just like flowing water. That is as beautiful as it gets. Wow, what drama. That was so beautiful to see all the same forms with the water. That is sheer drama. Look at the power of getting out of that water.
Yeah, look at the muscles.
And then they came towards us again.
That's a good one.
It's almost like a platoon of soldiers.
Yeah.
I love these caribou. I mean, they give you a lot of opportunity, and they're so uniform. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
Every antler is so huge.
I love their dark eyes too. The ring
Yeah.
on their eyes.
Yeah, they all look like they've been in fights and lost. The way the sand has filled in the lower portions of these grooves in the ice. And it's just beautiful patterns repeated throughout this entire surface. On a day when the clouds have really shrouded these mountains and I can't find any caribou, I love to find and get lost into the abstract world. It's interesting to me how nature repeats itself on various levels. Right now, the patterns remind me exactly of the graceful curves within the antlers of the caribou. And when I photograph really fine details on the carpet of the tundra, there's also a lichen called caribou lichen that is almost identical to the shape of the antlers itself. These Arctic rivers aren't known for their rapids, but this is a pretty good set.
Yeah, this is the biggest set of rapids on the river, and that's why we came up here to scout it out a little bit before we just blindly went into it. You guys ready to get wet?
It's amazing to me when you start flying over this land and you start to see the trails of the caribou etched into the soil. And in some cases, it's probably a foot or more deep. And these trails are really ageless. It's almost like an eloquent writing of the caribou onto the land itself.
Absolutely. And they are playing out an ancient rhythm that has gone on for thousands and thousands of years.
Caribou migrate a long way.
Yeah, it's incredible. They actually, the porcupine caribou herd travels farther than any other terrestrial mammal.
Wow.
They travel an average of 2,500 miles a year.
So they'll come all the way through these mountains back into the National Wildlife Refuge to drop their young.
That's what they do. They go to the coastal plain to birth their calves. They share this birthing ground with millions of migratory birds who also lay eggs and hatch their young right there on the coastal plain.
The Arctic plain, really on a clear day, is quite an extraordinary sight because you look to the south towards the Berkshire Range and you got this skyline of glacier-clad peaks, and to the north, it's just this white, thin line of ice that lies along the ocean edge. And in between is the Arctic plain, this giant nursery. It's midnight up here in the Arctic, in the land of the midnight sun, and there's a huge herd of caribou moving across the slope, and they're just seemingly floating across. It's so sinuous, this line of caribou. It's a great subject for this camera. It seems at times that every square foot of this tundra has a subject, from the micro world of the lichens and the mosses to the small birds that make their nests within this carpet of the tundra. Right in front of me, I have a beautiful nest of Lapland longspurs and 5 little babies, so perfectly camouflaged within the complexity of the tundra. I'm moving in really quick and getting a quick shot. This is really great. There's 3 Arctic ground squirrel babies. They're just very blasé to my presence, which is the best time to start to get really nice behavior. One of the best shots is when they all stand up on their back legs and they look around. There's a nice catchlight in the eye. There's no wind. It's a very even overcast. It's perfect conditions. We're at a great spot right now. We've come low enough on the Congacud River that now this entire valley is broadened out. Just beyond these last foothills lies the great coastal plain. So these caribou are coming out of all the side channels, migrating right past our camp, up and over these ridges and out onto the plain. There's got to be at least 500 bull caribou going at this slope. It's just fantastic, just great.
Alaska's North Slope is a vast area. At this time, 94% of it has already been handed over for oil drilling and other types of industrial development.
94%?
94% of it.
Wow.
If we allow oil drilling and industrial development on the remaining piece, the small piece of the coastal plain in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, we will be losing a tremendous piece of America's heritage.
I think the Brooks Range and the Arctic Plain really exemplifies true wilderness. This is the place I think of when I think of the word wilderness. With every loss of a wilderness area, every time we destroy an old-growth forest, we develop a wild coastline, we lose. Because it's important for all of us to know that there are still wild areas out there. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me next time on Travels to the Edge.